30, 35 down the sidelines to the 40, makes a move to the 45, the 50, he's to the 40, he could go, he's at the 25, the 20, they dive at him, they miss him, he's in the end zone, touchdown!
Throws off his back foot, wide open man in the end zone, leaping grab, touchdown!
Launches the throw down toward the goal line, going up, ball tipped in the air, caught, touchdown!
Reverses his field, got a block from Pittman, going deep, got a man in the end zone, touchdown!
It's a man's game tonight now, you know that. Everybody watching tonight.
And now it's the Undefined Blitz with Chad and JC.
And welcome everybody once again to the Undefined Blitz right here on undefinedradio.com. Appreciate you guys tuning in as we bring you another edition of comprehensive football, talking about all the ups and downs, what happened this weekend, what are y'all's thoughts on these, who's your teams. You can sound off in the comments, but we getting right to it because it was a great weekend of football for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, Cowboys stomped a mud hole in the Patriots.
Yep.
Texas ran away with that game against Kansas in the second half. And then, of course, Ole Miss, LSU thriller down in Oxford this weekend.
One of the best games of the weekend.
Absolutely wild. No defense was had in that game.
If you're an offensive-minded person, you loved the football game.
Absolutely. I think it was over 1,300 yards of total offense in that game between the two games.
Yeah. And the fact that LSU had a 9-point lead with a little over 6 minutes left in this foosball game. This is a game normally Ole Miss would not do well in at the end.
No, and they almost didn't. So,
but they hung in there, right? That was the thing.
Ole Miss almost did that thing that Ole Miss always does where they have these games, in a situation to really win. All they got to do is lock down on defense.
Yep.
And they don't ever do it.
No. But their offense kept rolling along.
But in this game, however, they got down. And for those of you who missed it, I mean, Ole Miss took the lead with 39 seconds left in this game. LSU did have 2 timeouts, but the first play from scrimmage, LSU went from their own 25 to Ole Miss's
This
38.
is where you thought it was going to be another one of those.
Yeah, and then Ole Miss does a good job of forcing LSU into some bad spots there. LSU almost throws an interception that gets dropped, but the very next play, there's a horse collar tackle on Jaden Daniels, so it's a free first down. LSU gets more shots at it.
But then he made up for it on a beautiful defensive play.
Well, before we even get there, I mean, LSU put themselves in a bad spot after they got gifted that great field position because they had 2 false starts, couldn't complete any passes. Then, of course, Jaden Daniels tries the goal line fade. It's not really a goal line fade because he was throwing it from about the 25, 30-yard line. But the same guy who grabbed Jaden Daniels for the horse collar penalty, he ends up carrying the receiver down the field and breaks up the pass at the goal line, which set up the 4th down play. It was for the game.
No time left.
Jaden Daniels scrambles around. He has a guy wide open in the back middle of the end zone. And Daniels just read it probably half a second too late.
Yep.
And so by the time he released the ball, 2 Ole Miss players converged on the LSU receiver, who did get his hands on the ball, but it was high and he was getting leveled.
Oh, yeah.
As the ball got there. And so
he was on the ground a little afterwards.
So Ole Miss won. I was not – and look, I'm an Ole Miss alum, where I went to college. Not a fan of the Ole Miss fans rushing the field in that game. I get they were hyped up. It was a big win. But you weren't so far apart in rankings.
Yeah, it wasn't like you're beating a top 10 team at the time.
If Ole Miss had gone into Tuscaloosa, or if that game against Alabama was in Oxford,
that's different.
And Ole Miss beats Alabama there.
You see it.
I see it because even though Alabama's got questionable quarterback play right now, they still feel like a better team than LSU does.
Oh yeah. And you're right. I was like, I get it. You're used to getting beat by LSU. And I understood why they did it, but I'm still not a fan of that. I mean, you got plenty more games on the horizon. You better start focusing on. Don't hang your hat on this one. It's a big win because this is a game you normally lose. And last year at this time, we circled that as they get beat here.
And you and I have been extremely critical of Jackson Dart.
Yeah,
since he's got
absolutely.
Ole Miss. thought this was his best game that he's played.
He was so composed in this game.
He made
he didn't get rattled.
Made a lot of big boy throws.
Mm-hmm.
Made some plays with his legs.
The hurdle
was
great.
Incredible.
I mean, he should. Jackson Dart should have won a lot of people's respect with how gritty he played and how composed he played under pressure. A game that they could, like we said, could have easily went up the other way, but it didn't. Yeah, they were very poised, and you love to see it.
If Ole Miss's defense can quit giving up so many points,
yes,
there's a legitimate chance that they could win out the rest of the way.
Yeah, because we were looking at the schedule earlier. I mean, and because the way Georgia's been playing.
Because Georgia's been playing some bad teams that they let hang around.
Yes.
And Ole Miss isn't a bad team.
No.
I don't think they're a great team, but they're not a bad team.
Mm-mm.
I mean, there's a very realistic chance that Ole Miss could win out, and depending on what happens with Alabama the rest of the way, Ole Miss could win the SEC West.
They could. It's a very real. That's the thing. It's a very real possibility.
I don't say that to make hyperbole or people to think that I'm being a homer, but Ole Miss doesn't have a super strong schedule. I mean, like you said, they got Georgia, which is a huge game. But, Alabama still has to go to A&M, which they should win. They've got Arkansas at home, which they should win. The Tennessee game last year was wild.
Yep.
Do we get a repeat of that?
Who knows?
Tennessee's not the same team as last year by any means, but Tennessee could do it. LSU on any given Saturday
can beat them.
Kentucky is a lot better than we all thought.
Yes, they are.
And, of course, they got, Tennessee Chattanooga after that. And then, of course, the Iron Bowl at the end of the season, which I don't think anyone's expecting Auburn to beat Alabama. But they have a 3-game stretch there from October 21st. Then they get a bye week. Then the LSU game. Then the Kentucky game. As it stands right now, all 3 of those teams are ranked in the top 25.
That is
They're
true.
all in the back part of that top 25.
But they're still ranked.
In the 20s. But they all are ranked opponents. All I'm saying is that Alabama's got a tougher schedule to go than Ole Miss does.
Yes, they do. Bryson says, I think they ran in because of the Magnolia Bowl. Remember that incident?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and
it is LSU.
It is. There is no love lost between those teams.
Absolutely
at all.
not,
So,
but
and look,
it just felt.
And I think because
weird.
I don't think we expected Ole Miss to win. We didn't pick them last week.
No,
we did not pick Ole Miss to win this football game. And so I think there's that as well. And look, let's be honest. Ole Miss is not used to winning big games like this.
But they're just not. This LSU team, it's not like when I was at Ole Miss. Man, I guess it was my very first semester at Ole Miss. We had Dante Moncrief and Laquan Treadwell.
That's right.
At receiver. But LSU came into Oxford. LSU had a couple receivers you might have heard of.
Yeah.
One named Jarvis Landry, the other one named Odell Beckham Jr. And Ole Miss pulled off the upset. Everyone rushed the field, and I got it.
Yeah, you understood it.
I understood. This LSU team does not feel like that team.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And it was exciting. Look, we got home from an event Saturday, and it was late at night, and I was sitting there in bed, couldn't get to sleep. I was on a few little pain meds, and it does the opposite to me, right? So I don't get put under. I'd be like, oh, I'm just awake now. So I watched the Texas game, and I turned around and watched the Ole Miss game right after it. And it was a lot of fun football because Texas took care of Kansas, who was undefeated at the time. Texas rolls them 40-14, and really the game's not that close.
No, well, it was until halftime.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're actually watching the game, Texas was never.
Oh, they were never in any jeopardy.
It was. Yeah. They really were just up, and Kansas couldn't do anything with Texas, and it was obvious there was a very big talent disparity in that football game.
And also, Kansas was down their starting quarterback for that game,
and they were, and that made a lot of difference. It did. I think Kansas could have been a tougher out if their starting QB would have been in this football game. Oregon State upsets Utah on Friday night.
They didn't just upset
21-7.
Yeah, I mean,
Utah could do nothing with Oregon State.
Yeah, Utah didn't score till the fourth quarter.
Nope. Georgia beats Auburn. This is what we were talking about. 27-20.
Yeah. And it's not like Auburn's not talented, but they're not great yet.
That's right.
They will. I mean, they've got Hugh Freeze. He's going to.
They've got a great.
He's going to
head
recruit.
coach. Absolutely.
And Georgia under Carson Beck does not feel like the same Georgia team as under Stetson Bennett.
That's right. Michigan just destroyed Nebraska as expected, 45-7. Penn State beats Northwestern 41-13. This game was tied at halftime. Then Penn State said, "You know what? We're so much better than this. Let's just go out and prove it." And they did. Washington beats Arizona 31-24.
That game should not have been that close.
No, it should not have. You had USC beating Colorado 48-41, in which USC was walking away easily with this football game. And Colorado decided, we're not going to be embarrassed just like that. And they made this a close game at the end.
They did. They rallied hard. It came down to an onside kick. It was not executed well at all. Like there was never any danger of Colorado recovering that onside kick. But it was a great game by Caleb Williams. I mean, 403 yards, 6 touchdowns. He did have to pick. But the moxie and the grit that Shedeur Sanders showed, rallying his team in that second half to lead them into a place to make that game competitive.
Yeah, because Colorado, I think, scored the last 21 points of that football game, I believe.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it went from, we got this to, okay, well, they got to score. Well, crap, they got another one. Oh, geez, wait a second.
Yeah.
It made USC sweat.
It was a coming out game for Omarion Miller. 7 receptions, 196 yards, and a touchdown for the true freshman receiver from Colorado. But, I mean, hats off to the Trojans. You know, the name of the game is to score more points than your opponents.
And they did.
And they did. They put it up 48-41. But if USC's defense doesn't get better, they're going to end up losing a game that they shouldn't.
That's right.
And I think it'll keep them out of the playoffs. At this point, I trust Washington. If Washington and USC play each other for the Pac-12 title, for example, I fully expect Washington to win that game.
Okay. Oregon beat Stanford 42-6. Notre Dame and Duke. Notre Dame wins this game 21-14. But boy, Duke gave them everything Notre Dame wanted and more.
Absolutely. I still don't know who these teams are. You know, like, is Duke actually good? Is Notre Dame actually good? I mean, they lost a really, really close game to Ohio State, who we know is good. And Duke's come out here and they stomped Clemson and teams like that. And then they get out here against Notre Dame, played against them pretty well. I mean, Notre Dame had the lead throughout. It's not like they were ever really in serious danger of losing the game. It was only an okay game by Sam Hartman, the Notre Dame quarterback. Riley Leonard, Duke's quarterback, had 18 carries for 88 yards. I think he ended up suffering a leg injury during this game, had to come out. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the regular season plays out for both of those two schools.
Alabama beats Mississippi State 40-17. Their most productive offensive display this season, really, so far.
Absolutely. And at first, though, I mean, it was kind of back and forth. Neither team could really get much going, but Mississippi State was making some big plays. And then Nick Saban rips into his entire team.
Oh, Lord, he did.
And when he did, they came to life, and they rallied around that, and it was all Alabama afterwards.
Oklahoma destroys Iowa State 50-20.
No surprise.
Tennessee beat South Carolina 41-20.
Did you see Spencer Rattler's comments after that game?
No, I didn't.
So he talked about Tennessee was out there celebrating like that was their Super Bowl. It's like,
well.
And then Tennessee's social media team did not let go of that.
Oh, I'm sure they didn't.
They broke out all kinds of memes about Spencer Rattler for that comment.
Kentucky beats Florida 33-14.
Yeah, Kentucky sitting at 5-0, pops Kentucky into the top 25.
Yep, finally.
So big time win for the Wildcats.
Mizzou beats Vandy 38-21.
As they should have.
And Fresno State beats Nevada 27-9. Now, this gives us a new top 25 rankings came out, of course. And we're going to go through the top 10 real quick, and we'll mention some of the outliers. You got Georgia at number 1, but they lost a lot of first place votes.
Yeah, they're losing ground on that first place.
They have 35 first place votes. Michigan has 12 first place votes. Texas has 10. Then Ohio State gets a first place vote, and Florida State gets 4 first place votes. That's 1 through 5 right there. Georgia, Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, Florida State. This is going to get interesting, especially with Texas and Oklahoma next week.
Huge game.
This is a big game.
Bright and early, 11 a.m. kickoff.
Which is still crazy to me that this game is so early in the day, but it always
got to be in the heart of the Texas State Fair.
It is.
And they're trying to get all the bodies in there they can.
And that's what they do. I mean, this is a big event, and it truly is. So this is going to be a fun game and hopefully a good game for us, not the enemy. Because both teams will wind up in the SEC. We've talked about this. They are headed that way next season. So this is the last year for this particular event within the confines of the Big 12.
I mean, everyone thought the Alabama game was a prove-it game for Texas, but this is a prove-it game for both schools.
It is.
This for Texas, it's show us that the Alabama thing wasn't an aberration.
That's right.
And
so what's the hype around you guys is actually real, that you have arrived.
For Oklahoma, it's, hey, really haven't played anybody yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
now you're about to play somebody.
They're sitting at 5-0, but now you're about to take on the number 3 team in the country. But are they really the number 3 team in the country? So this is not only going to be a huge game as far as shaking up the rankings and kind of sculpting out what the inaugural college football playoff rankings will be, but it's going to go a long way. One of these 2 teams, Texas and Oklahoma, one of them's winning the Big 12.
Yes.
This year.
That's right.
In its final at least in this incarnation of it. So whoever wins this game is going to end up winning the Big 12 and will get a spot in that college football playoff.
Yep. So we've got number 6, Penn State, number 7, Washington. Oregon moves up to number 8. USC drops down to number 9. And Notre Dame rounds out the top 10 with Alabama and then Oklahoma consecutively right behind those 2 guys as the 2 outliers. What do you think about this top 10 right now?
I mean, I can't argue with any of it. I mean, I guess you could argue with Notre Dame, but the fact is that they lost to number 4 Ohio State. And I think the fact that Oklahoma hasn't beaten anyone is the reason that they're at 12 and not sitting at 10 right now.
Yeah. It looks pretty good. I mean, I see what's happening here. It's good to see Kentucky, who was unranked they're sitting at number 20. They got brought in they were 4-0. Now they're 5-0. They beat Florida. Everybody's waiting on them, the voters out there, to prove it. They proved it against Florida, who was ranked already as a 1-loss team.
And Florida's now out of the top 25.
Out of the top 25. And Kentucky's a solid football team. They really are. We talked about it last week. That looks good to me. LSU dropped 10 spots in their loss to Ole Miss. That's a big drop. That is a massive drop. And I get they're 3-2. They are 3-2.
They're the only 2-loss team in the top 25 right now.
And so that feels about right. Now they have a matchup with, is it Missouri they take on next week?
Yes, Tigers versus Tigers.
So that's going to be an interesting game. So, and we're going to get to those matchups here in just a minute. But I mean, we're starting to see some things happen in the top. Utah drops 8 spots because of their loss.
That's kind of wild to me.
I mean,
because especially since Oregon State only went up 4 spots.
That's right. Yeah, you drop. And I guess they're thinking as well, we have to drop Utah down. Is Oregon State a better team than Ole Miss? And is Oregon State a better team than, say, Miami?
I mean, maybe.
That's.
I don't know about Ole Miss, but I think they're a better team than Miami.
I don't think they are.
But I also don't think that Kentucky's better than Missouri right now. And Missouri, who's been ranked in the top 25. You know, the fact that Kentucky jumped them after beating a team that already had a loss. Yeah, it's kind of weird to me.
So, I mean, it's a little strange what's happened right here. Let's talk about these matchups this week because there's some good ones. There's going to be some good ones. Oklahoma, Texas, we talked about it. 11 a.m. kickoff time on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean it's hands down the game of the week.
Texas is favored by 6.5.
I think Texas will win it.
I think they will too.
Like they're not gonna. It's not gonna be a 49-0 shellacking like it was last year when Texas ran all over Oklahoma.
That won't be the same thing.
Oklahoma's
much improved.
But I'm gonna say Texas wins by 10.
Okay, all right.
I don't think Oklahoma's as good as Alabama.
Yeah.
And Texas beat Alabama by 10. I think Texas should absolutely beat Oklahoma by 10.
I feel you. And Texas and Sark will be treating this as a big deal and a big game because he knows what it means. He came from that that school, right? That way of thinking. And you can tell in his pressers and how he talks about his team and how his team has been built. They kind of mentioned this during the game this weekend, talking about, they knew they when he inherited the football team, they gave the kids a shot. Then he knew real quick that we were going to have to tool this and retool this football team the way that I know it should be created. And They've done just that. And it's been cool to see. Ohio State and Maryland, again, both teams undefeated. Maryland not ranked. They're 5-0, unranked team. The line right now is OSU by 19.5, almost 20.
Yeah, and Ohio State should win this game. They have much better players, but Tua's little brother, I guess his name's Talia.
Yeah, something like
or
that.
something like I'm not sure.
I can never say his name right.
He's been balling out this year so far. And this season has been kind of quiet for Marvin Harrison Jr., which we know he's tremendous, but I think that just goes back to the quarterback play at Ohio State right now.
That's right.
And if Mr. Tagovailoa ends up playing better quarterback play than his counterpart at Ohio State this week, there's a chance Maryland could pull the upset.
Yeah. 23 LSU takes on number 21 Missouri. The line right now is LSU on the road by 6.5.
I do think LSU is a better team. I don't know if they're 6.5 point favorite team. If this said LSU 3.5, I would say that sounds right.
Yeah.
I do think LSU will win because they're going to be good and pissed off.
Oh yes.
Coming out of what just
Missouri's definitely catching them at the wrong time.
Yeah, even LSU fans rushed the field in Oxford.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, whatever that means.
Dumb drunk college kids.
That's right.
So I think LSU is going to rally this week, and they're going to go into Columbia, Missouri, and pull that upset.
All right, we've got number 13 Washington State taking on UCLA. The line is UCLA by 3.5 at home.
I don't buy it. I'm taking Wazoo.
All right. We got Virginia Tech taking on number 5 Florida State. Lions Florida State by 24.
Yeah, Florida State by infinity at this point.
You got Alabama, number 11, going to Texas A&M. Both teams 4-1. Alabama is a 2.5 point favorite on the road.
That feels weird. Just to see Alabama, from what we've seen from them,
A&M always gives them fits for whatever reason.
Well,
and it's been that way for the last few years for some reason.
It has, but I don't believe in this A&M team. And they just lost their quarterback.
Yeah,
he's done for the year. I would take Alabama by at least a touchdown in this one.
I would think so too. For no other reason than just the loss of A&M and their quarterback.
Yeah,
I mean that right there alone is just that's going to be hard enough to overcome.
Yeah, it's been an impressive start for A&M at 4-1, but this is where the wheels are going to come off the train.
14 North Carolina takes on Syracuse. Line is UNC by 8.5.
I like UNC, but Drake May's been very up and down this year.
Yeah.
If he can play a solid game, Tar Heels should absolutely win it.
We got number 20 Kentucky taking on number 1 Georgia. We're about to find out what Kentucky's about really here. They're going into the dog pound itself.
Yeah, Kentucky's good, but they're not Georgia good.
Yeah. Georgia is a 14.5 point favorite in this game. Does Georgia cover that line?
No.
Kentucky plays them tight?
Well, I mean, they play tighter than 14.5.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Because literally all they have to do is stay within 2 touchdowns.
And yeah,
and Georgia doesn't cover the spread.
And I think Kentucky is playing good enough that they can do that. And,
Yeah, I
against the
think so.
Georgia team, who hasn't looked like they should be a 14.5 point favorite against the Kentucky team.
Right. But, I mean, they are so tremendously talented
Oh,
and
God.
stacked at
No
all
doubt.
levels of their team. It's just if they can get their passing game going a little bit better, Georgia,
Mhm.
that is, I mean, they will quickly get back to being unstoppable.
I can see Georgia win this game by 10. I just don't know if they do it by 2 full touchdowns or not.
I'm with you.
Michigan, ranked number 2, taking on Minnesota. The Lions, Michigan by 20.5 on the road.
Yeah, that
should be an easy
sounds
one.
right.
Number 10, Notre Dame. Number 25, Louisville. Lions, Notre Dame by 7 on the road.
Well, if Sam Hartman gets back on track this week, I think they win by more than 7.
I can see
Notre
it.
Dame, that is.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. We got Georgia Tech taking on number 17, Miami. Lions, Miami by 21 at home.
Yeah, I will definitely take that action. Georgia Tech had co-defensive coordinators. They just demoted one of them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Hurricanes should win this game. I don't know if it'll be by 21, but Hurricanes improved to 5-0 here.
Here we go with 24 Fresno State. Wyoming is 4-1. We talked about them earlier. Lions, Fresno State by 5.5 on the road.
Wyoming's only loss is to Texas.
That's right.
That's it. They beat a Texas Tech team that people thought was going to finish second or third in the Big 12 this year. That was week 1. They haven't really played much anybody since then, but they're about to have back-to-back prove-it games this week against Fresno State, next week against Air Force, which are the top 2 teams in the Mountain West Conference right now. I'm going to take the Cowboys to defend Laramie, Wyoming, and knock off the invading Fresno State Bulldogs.
There you go. Number 15, Oregon State taking on Cal. The Lions, Oregon State by 9.5 on the road.
Yeah, Oregon State should absolutely win that game.
And finally, we've got Arizona taking on number 9, USC. Lions, USC by 21.5 at home.
Look, Arizona tried to prove that they belong last week. It didn't work out for them, but USC's offense is going to be entirely too much for Arizona to handle.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to flip over to the NFL, run down a few of these scores and our pick'em games. And we still got our awards to give out. I'm going to ask you guys, who was your drizzler of the week? Who was your stud of the week, your big kahuna? Get that in mind as we come back to this here in just a little bit. Let's run that. Lions and Packers. Lions destroyed the Packers. The Lions both of these teams have seen a change in fortunes. Lions stock. The city of Detroit actually has something to be proud of for a change.
Yeah, they really do. They're the best team in their division right now. The offense is looking solid. It's just can the defense match what the offense is doing? David Montgomery this year coming to the Lions. He's missed some games already, but the games that he has played, he has looked every bit like the player everyone expected him to be coming out of college.
That's right. He is, boy, 3 touchdowns.
32 carries in this game. Only 121 yards on those 32 carries. But, yeah, the 3 touchdowns are huge.
Cowboys thumped the Patriots 38-3, handing Bill Belichick his worst loss in his head coaching career.
Yeah, so the Cowboys retired Tom Brady.
Yeah.
A guy that they had never beaten.
That's right.
They beat the Patriots for the first time in Bill Belichick's tenure last season in a really tight game in overtime, I believe it was.
It was crazy ending. Crazy ending.
But this game, they just came out from the jump and punched the Patriots in the mouth.
And while the Patriots were questioning their play at quarterback, it became more of the floodgates opened after that football game about what are we going to do at quarterback.
However, I still have my gripes with the Cowboys.
Red zone offense is horrible.
Red zone offense is horrible, and the tight ends in particular, once they get into the red zone, their hands turn into bricks.
Oh, yeah.
And they can't catch anything.
Touchdown wiped off the board that should have been.
Yeah.
Easily.
The Schumacher.
Yeah. Had that one. Jaguars and Falcons.
And the Fountains.
I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. 23-7.
Not a great game.
Not a great game at all. Bijan had a good game. Thank God.
Yeah, I think
Wish he would score some TDs. It would have been great. But they win that easily.
Yeah, big game for Jonnu Smith, Falcons tight end, but not Kyle Pitts. I don't know if Arthur Smith hates Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
I don't know if Desmond Ritter hates
Somebody
Kyle
hates
Pitts.
Kyle Pitts.
Somebody
does not like
in
Kyle
that
Pitts.
Falcons organization, really not a fan of Kyle Pitts. Who runs like a 4.4 40 as a tight end. And he's 6'4", and he's massive. Like, he can do anything out there. And the fact that they are not figuring out ways to get the ball to him, it blows my mind.
That's right. Dolphin said, you know what? We love karma and symmetry. So we only allow a Broncos team to score 20 points as we put up 70. We think we're only going to score 20 points the next week just to round it out.
While allowing the Bills to put up 48.
That's right. And that's exactly what happens as the Bills just thumped the Dolphins.
People were been talking since the offseason about problems between Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen.
Yeah.
They didn't have any problems Sunday.
No, they did not.
I mean, Josh Allen, 320 yards, 4 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, 6 receptions, 120 of those 320 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
It was a beating. It was a beating.
Absolute beatdown.
The Broncos beat the Bears in this game. So this game
was better than it had any business being.
So you were telling me, because I did not watch this game, and then you were telling me about it yesterday. We were talking about this.
Yeah, this was a battle of 2 0-3 teams.
Yeah.
We laughed about this game last week.
We did.
On this show.
It was pretty hilarious.
I was like, man, the NFL is really going to make people watch this.
Yeah. It was entertaining.
And then it comes out, and Justin Fields played lights out until about the last 6 minutes of this game. And then all of a sudden, everything that could go, like,
it just all imploded on him.
Everyone talks about momentum in sports. Yes. And the momentum started building towards the Broncos in that second half, especially in that fourth quarter. And so it got to be where it was 28-21. Broncos were down by a touchdown. And the Broncos bring a blitz, and they bring it from 2 directions on the edges. One guy gets home to Justin Fields as his arm is back. So the ball, his arm never comes forward. The ball flies backwards behind him. The guy that was coming from the other direction comes in, scoops it up. Then the 2 of them just hightail it to the end zone. Broncos tied the game up.
Yeah.
So the Bears come back out. They can't get anything going. Punt the ball to the Broncos. Broncos go back down the field. With about a minute, 50 seconds left, they kick a field goal to go up 31-28. It's like, man, the way Justin Fields has been playing today, though, like, he can get the team back down there. Worst case scenario, they can kick a field goal.
Yeah.
Because DJ Moore had a great game. He had 8 catches, 131 yards, touchdown. He was making all sorts of plays. Khalil Herbert, 18 carries, 103 yards. But Justin Fields, got out there and just promptly throws an interception that iced the game for the Broncos. And it's one of those games for the Bears, I feel like, that just makes the owner has to go in there and just want to fire everybody.
Well, because you had this game in hand.
Had it.
Justin Fields was having himself a day finally. Everybody said, this is the quarterback we believed you could be.
I think it was 28-7 at one point.
It was. And then just the implosion, like you said, happened.
Yeah, Cole Kmet had 2 touchdowns in the red zone in this game. Like, it was the best game Justin Fields has played as an NFL quarterback.
Yes.
Until the last 6 minutes of the game.
Football. Just football. The Ravens beat the Browns 28-3, and I did not expect it, to be honest with you.
Huge game for Lamar Jackson.
Yes. Big game for him.
Passing wise, not gaudy numbers. He had 2 passing touchdowns and 186 passing yards, but he also had another 2 touchdowns on the ground.
That's right. He is a weapon.
That Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews connection got back in full swing. Mark Andrews, 5 receptions, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns himself. Absolute beatdown of the Browns. Dorian Thompson-Robinson got the start for the Browns as Deshaun Watson was ruled out. And he played like a rookie. Like, just the most ridiculous, mind-numbing kind of plays that could happen in an NFL game happened for the Browns. Like, there was one play to Elijah Moore where it was a wide receiver reverse. Not even a reverse. He just kind of came on a jet sweep, but instead of pitching it to him, they handed it off to him. And Elijah Moore tried to run to the left side of his offensive line, and he looked up, and there was a lot of Ravens players. So he tries to circle back. And he ended up losing about 23 yards on that play. It was terrible. It's like, man, they didn't throw you the ball. Just throw it out of bounds.
That's right.
just throw it away.
The Titans absolutely destroyed the Cincinnati Bengals. As once again, that team is just, they cannot get anything going. There's no consistency here.
Like, Jamar Chase was decent. 7 receptions for 73 yards. A reporter asked him after the game, if he felt like he was open on certain plays that the ball wasn't thrown to him.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like I was open. I'm always effing open.
That's right.
Of course, he didn't say effing.
Yeah.
Said the word. Big game for Ryan Tannehill, 240 yards, 1 touchdown, did have a pick. Derrick Henry, 22 carries, 122 yards, and a touchdown. He also threw a touchdown pass in this game. So Titans get back to 500 through the first quarter of the season here. But, man, what is going on with the Bengals and that offense? Why?
It's unreal.
It is just falling apart, and we know that they're loaded with talent.
They are, and that's the disturbing thing.
They spent a ton of money on their offensive line,
which we've been talking about for years. They needed to do to protect Joe Burrow.
So they got these good offensive linemen come in. They still have Joe Mixon in the backfield.
Yeah.
You still have Jamar Chase. You still have T. Higgins. You still have Tyler Boyd. And it is just not coming together.
It doesn't make any sense.
And look,
it sounds crazy.
And Joe Burrow's beat
what's
up.
going on. He is.
Like, he's got the calf strain, but he's also got a lingering ankle issue. And I think he's got an upper body injury he's been dealing with too. So do they just need to sit Joe Burrow and just let him rest and throw in an A.J. McCarron or whoever else they have?
Just get him healed up. Because if it's bothering him that much, then he's not going to be a benefit to anybody.
No.
At least get him healed up enough where he can come out there and not be in jeopardy himself, because you're already 1-3. You've got to do something here that's going to produce a spark for your football team.
We all know that Joe Burrow's the guy. You just paid him a lot of money.
There's no question.
It's not like Joe Burrow's going anywhere. But
he's a hell of a quarterback, and he's tough as nails, but they're going to have to sit him. You're going to have to make him sit. Because he's tough. He will go out there and play. And that's what you want in your quarterback and your leader. But you're going to have to do something for him to at least force him to get some kind of rest. Because right now it's not happening. We've got the Rams and the Colts.
Man, I am so thankful for this game. Because I do have Puka Nacua.
Dude, that's such a good pickup, too.
I also have Kyron Williams in fantasy.
Mike says Burrow, GOAT.
And Burrow's great.
He is.
But if he's banged up and he can't do his follow-throughs on his passing motions, if he can't really put weight on his leg, it's just
and that seems to be a lot of the problem. Like, you'll notice when he tries to launch the ball and he can't step into his throws right now, and it's really affecting a lot of that. Like,
absolutely.
I felt like the reporter was baiting as much as he's trying to stir drama within that locker room.
Talking about Jamar Chase?
Talking about Jamar Chase. Because the fact of the matter is, when you're in that much pain and you're trying to go up and do all of that, you're trying to get rid of the ball and make some plays here, and you're not at your best. It's difficult. And so maybe stop trying to create drama where there is none. And the rest of the organization, let Joe Burrow get healthy so he can go out there, because he's already proven himself.
Right.
That's why you pay the man what you're paying him. But he's got to get healed up. I think once he gets healed up, I think they'll be fine. It's just a matter of getting there.
I'm with you. So, but going back to this Rams-Colts game, very thankful for this game because Kyron Williams, 25 carries, 103 yards, 2 touchdowns. Puka Nacua, 9 receptions, 163 yards, got his first career touchdown reception, and it was the walk-off touchdown to win the game in overtime.
Oh, yeah. Which is crazy.
Big game for Matt Stafford, 319 yards, 1 touchdown, did have a pick. But this week, the Rams get Cooper Kupp back.
Yes, they do.
Who I also have.
Me too. He's been on my bench.
I've had him in my IR spot all year.
Just waiting for this moment.
So I think it raises the question with Cooper Kupp coming back, with the Rams sitting at 2-2 through 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
Does it put the Rams in a spot where they could possibly contend for a wild card spot?
I think so.
They're not winning the West.
No, but
that's the 49ers.
But with the rest of the NFC and the shape that it's in, absolutely. Detroit's going to win their division.
Is the whole F them picks philosophy that they had, where they shipped off all these draft picks to get all this talent to win a Super Bowl that year.
Yeah, and they did.
And they did. And then they had, a really bad year last year.
Yes, they did.
And then this year, they traded away a bunch of role players. And they got a bunch of compensatory picks, too.
Yep.
Because all the talent they lost.
That's right.
And so I think the Rams ended up with like maybe the second most draft picks in this draft this year, like from rounds 3 through 7.
Yeah,
they had a ton of picks.
But you get some good finds in there.
And
again,
guys like Kyron Williams.
That's right.
Which ran Cam Akers out of town. They traded him to Minnesota.
Yep.
You find a gem like Puka Nacua.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, this Rams team could be back in business with a young, dirt cheap roster.
And that makes a difference.
Dirt cheap roster.
Remember Seattle? Because you've heard me preach about this stupidity for years, but it's always true. When you got young, cheap players you don't have to pay right now, your team can be good for 5 or 6 years.
And they were.
Before the money starts having to change hands. We saw it in Seattle. Once players started getting paid, your strength goes down a little bit, and also, you age out.
And you can only pay so many people.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Then you got to let people walk.
You have to, because your salary cap only allows you so much money. So you're right. If these guys are hitting like Puka Nacua and some of these other guys, now you got all this money you don't have to pay out.
Yeah, and you got those guys for 4 years.
Yes.
If your other young guys can develop, you can let go of some more expensive guys, but then next offseason, if you're like, oh, we've got a deficiency at this spot, who's the top guy on the market?
Let's go get him.
Here. Come on in.
We got
the
money
for 2-3 years.
That's right. We got you.
And come to LA.
That's how you keep a consistently top tier team. It's how New England did it for years.
Not how they're doing it currently.
No.
I mean, it is how they're doing it, but it's not a top tier
team.
But
for 20 years, New England did that. I mean, and people can say what they want to now for that team, but that's the winning formula. And they've proven it. This is how you build consistent winning. We may not win every year, but you're always in that conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. We have Buccaneers, Saints. Bucks beat the Saints 26-9.
Rolled the Saints.
Good Lord, man.
We talked about this game last week being huge for that division.
Yes.
The thing that's bothered me is this narrative on Baker Mayfield. Like, we all understand why he got shipped out of Cleveland. Like, he was missing wide open Odell Beckham.
He was.
Odell Beckham has, 2 to 3 steps on a defender, and the ball's going 10 yards over his head.
Exactly.
And it was bad. So last offseason, he ends up in Carolina. It just doesn't work. They end up shipping him out to LA, where he instantly came in off the bus. 3 days later, played a game and led the Rams to a victory. Of course, the Rams didn't re-sign him this offseason, so now he's with the Bucks. People are like, oh, he's been with 4 teams in 2 years. It's like, yeah, but it's not real. The point you're trying to make doesn't really fit reality. The narrative you're trying to write about Baker Mayfield is not fitting the reality of the situation. And last year, Baker Mayfield was on 2 bad teams.
Yeah.
He was. He was on a terrible Carolina team.
Yep.
And he was on a terrible Rams team.
Absolutely.
Baker Mayfield last season as starting quarterback was 2-8.
Yep.
This year he's already 3-1 in Tampa Bay. Because yes, he's not Tom Brady. No one expects him to be Tom Brady. But when you got Chris Godwin, when you've got Mike Evans, there's enough talent on that offense in Tampa Bay for them to win games and win this division. And it looks like Baker Mayfield and company has got that thing going.
What a game Washington and the Eagles had.
Absolutely.
Boy, I did not expect that.
Yeah, A.J. Brown gets that touchdown late to put the Eagles up, and then Sam Howell just marches the Commanders down the field and ties it up to force overtime. Then the Commanders get the ball to start overtime and just did nothing.
Nope.
Had to punt it, and once Philly got the ball, that was game.
Vikings beat the Panthers 21-13.
Yeah, a battle of 2 0-3 teams going into that game. Man, Justin Jefferson played well. Hey, mascots. Sorry, the show's mascots are getting wired up.
That's right.
But it was a good game for Alexander Madison as well. And on the Panther side, man, Adam Thielen showed that he still got the juice.
He does.
Absolutely still has juice. But Bryce Young and this offense are not on the same page.
No, they're not.
They're just not. The Panthers' offense looked so completely different last week with Andy Dalton as quarterback. I mean, what does it hurt for Andy Dalton to take over? And I know people will say, well, we got to protect Bryce Young's ego. I don't think Bryce Young has an ego.
I don't think he does either.
Or I know all competitors and all athletes have an ego,
but it's not that runaway ego.
He is a team first kind of guy. Like
That's right.
It comes from playing in Alabama with Nick Saban.
Exactly. That's what you're taught down there.
I don't think it would hurt Bryce Young to sit behind Andy Dalton this season and take things over next year. Just like Jalen Hurts. He sat behind Carson Wentz for basically his entire rookie season.
That's right.
Before he took over the following year.
Exactly.
It's not going to hurt anything.
No, not at all. Let him do that. Steelers lose to the Texans 30-6.
CJ Stroud has been the best rookie quarterback in this class.
Yep.
By far. And look, the Texans aren't a good team. They don't have a lot of weapons.
No, they don't.
I mean, I know Nico Collins had a great game. 7 catches, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. But they've got the rookie Tank Dell. But it's not like they have an embarrassment of proven guys for CJ Stroud to get the ball to. I mean, probably Dalton Schultz is their best offensive weapon.
Yeah.
Right now, as far as like a proven commodity.
That's right.
They do have Robert Woods, but he's an older guy. He's not really doing a whole lot. But man, CJ Stroud and his presence and his command of that offense, it was shaky the first couple weeks, but the last 2 weeks in particular, he has just absolutely shown out.
The Chargers beat the Raiders 24-17.
Yeah, the Raiders had no Jimmy Garoppolo. He was in the concussion protocol.
Nope.
They started rookie Aiden O'Connell, who looks like Rod Farva from Super Troopers.
Yeah, that's true. You're not wrong.
But it was a good game for Josh Jacobs, and it was starting to be a good game for Devontae Adams before he started getting banged up. But the big wild part of this game was Khalil Mack of the Chargers, who has largely disappeared since his days as a Chicago Bear.
Yep.
Khalil Mack had, I want to say, 6 sacks in this game.
That's crazy.
I need to find out. Let me check the stats on this real fast. I'm pretty sure Khalil Mack had 6 sacks.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, 6 sacks.
That makes no sense.
10 total tackles, 8 solos, 6 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, a pass deflection, and 4 quarterback hits.
Good grief.
That's the Khalil Mack we all remember.
That's right.
Like, if he can play like that on a week-in, week-out basis, and then if the rest of that Chargers defense can kind of rally around that, it'll help the Chargers get to the point they want to be. The Chargers bounce up to 2-2 on the year. Not started off the way that they wanted to, but it seems like they're starting to get things melding together. Also didn't realize that Semi Fehoko was on the Chargers. No.
Oh, yeah. 49ers beat the Cardinals 35-16.
No shock there.
And then last night, the Chiefs, the Jets. Chiefs beat the Jets 23-20.
Yeah, it was all Chiefs the first quarter and a half of this game.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, the Jets and Zach Wilson started coming to life. I mean, Zach Wilson, solid game, 245 yards, 2 touchdowns. They had a chance to possibly win the game late, but Zach Wilson missed a throw. The Chiefs got the ball. They were down in the red zone area, and then Patrick Wilson, the actor, Patrick Wilson,
that's right,
is now the quarterback for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, being the heady seasoned veteran that he is, he scrambles. I think the first down marker was like 3-yard line. Mm-hmm. He runs to about the 2, stops all his momentum, just goes down.
Yep. So here's far enough.
And it's like, let's just kill the clock.
That's
ball game.
That's right. Smart move. bet move, and that's what you do. It was such a great weekend. And then this weekend, because tonight we have
Seahawks Giants.
Yeah, it is Seahawks Giants tonight, isn't it?
Seahawks are the favorite all the way across the country in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Which is wild.
But I agree. Like, Seahawks should win. I don't think Saquon's not playing for the Giants. Seahawks are the better team as of right now. Seahawks should go on the road, get that victory.
See, Thursday night, you got Bears and Commanders. Lions Washington by 7 at home.
I can't believe that's a primetime game. But, yeah, Commanders should improve to 3-2 after that one.
And, of course, next Sunday night, you got Cowboys, 49ers in prime time. Lions San Francisco by 3.5 at home.
Yeah, I'm going to take San Francisco on that. I'm not cheering for them, but
yeah, I agree.
Logically,
I think 49ers are probably the best team in the NFC easy right now. Maybe in the whole
NFL.
I mean,
it's a possibility.
Christian McCaffrey's just tearing it up, dude. He is a beast over there.
I know Eagles fans, because I've got buddies that are Eagles fans. They're going to jump on me. Well, what about us? What about the Eagles? Well, yeah, you're undefeated. That's great. But you're beating teams that you should be blowing out by very few points.
That's right. You should be destroying these teams.
And if you were destroying teams the way that San Francisco is destroying teams, I would probably say that the Eagles are the best team in the NFL.
That's right. But right now, it's got to be the 49ers. I mean, they're so good.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Jaguars 2-2, taking on the Bills 3-1. Lions Buffalo by 5.5 at home.
Well, Buffalo by infinity.
If you could say Buffalo Bills team this week, you got last weekend. Yes, easily.
This
Buffalo.
is also in London. This one's not at Wembley. This one's at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So the Jaguars, I'm guessing, are just staying in London.
I would.
You know?
I wouldn't leave.
I wonder if they're doing another Toy Story game.
I don't know, but that was kind of interesting.
That was kind of cool to watch.
Texans take on the Falcons. Lions Atlanta by 1 at home.
Man,
I don't know.
give me C.J. Stroud and the Texans.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I would not have thought that earlier.
The Falcons' offense has kind of hit a standstill the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to go with the offense that I can believe in right now, and that's the Texans.
Panthers, Lions. The Lions are favored at home by 9.
Which is a ton in an NFL game.
It is.
Typically does not happen. Especially doesn't happen for the Lions. But, yeah, I'm looking for the Lions to go to 4-1.
Titans, Colts, Lions, Indy by 1.5 at home.
Ooh.
Look, I realize Tannehill hasn't been good, but I realize that Titans defense is awesome.
But, man, Anthony Richardson, though, he's also just kind of superhuman.
He is. This is going to be a tough game.
I
can see why the line is 1.5.
1.5 is essentially a pick 'em.
That's right.
I'm going to take the Colts at home. That 1.5 is home field advantage.
Giants, Dolphins, Lions, Miami by 9.5.
Taking the Dolphins there.
Saints, Patriots, Lions, New England by 1.5.
I am taking the Saints on the road.
I am too. Mac Jones is horrible.
Man, I don't know if he's horrible. I just know he's had 3 different offensive coordinators each of the last 3 seasons.
And that's never good for your consistency. Here's what the biggest thing I think happened to Mac Jones last night was the Dallas Cowboys defense. Because that defense is really good. And once you get behind them and you're being pressured like that, I mean, he was hearing footsteps and seeing players where they weren't even at.
Well, there was the great special teams play by Jalen Tolbert. Brian Anger booted a beautiful punt.
Oh, yeah.
The returner for New England fields it. Jalen Tolbert gets down there, tackles him basically where he recovered the ball.
That's right.
Which backed the Patriots up real deep.
Exactly.
In the shadow of their goalpost. Mac Jones tried to bail out. Dante Fowler said, I don't think so.
Nope.
Knocks the ball loose. Van Der Esch scoops it up, walks it into the end zone because it's only like 3 inches away. Yeah. And once that happened,
that was it.
The Cowboys then went for 2 in a way that I have not seen a team go for 2 since the extra point got moved back.
Yeah.
They did the fake field goal extra point to Chauncey Golston.
Of all people.
A defensive lineman of all people. But, I mean, at that point, though, the score was like 18-3.
Yes.
And you just knew there was no way New England was going to dig out of it.
It was impossible. And so, I don't know, man.
I don't know if it was necessarily Dallas being more than they could overcome as it was at that point. We talked about momentum earlier. like Dallas had all the momentum, and they weren't about to let it go.
Dallas plays the game that they like to play, which is get out in front, and then we're just pass rushing, and you got to play catch up with us.
Yeah.
And even with their red zone troubles that Dallas has, it doesn't matter once they're out on top. Now you're being pressured into trying to force stuff that Dallas does, because Dallas also ball controls. They've won time of possession. They did last week. In a loss, they had time of possession because they can move the ball between the 20s. It's inside the 20-yard line.
Once they get in the reds, especially once they get around the 10-yard line,
it's all over with. We've got Ravens, Steelers, Lions, Baltimore by 4.5 on the road.
I agree. Taking the Ravens on the road in a huge division matchup.
So, Eagles, Rams, this game has gotten far more interesting now.
It really has.
Eagles are favored on the road right now.
Eagles are favored on the road. Matt Stafford's about to get back his favorite weapon to pair with his
new favorite,
his shiny new toy,
Puka
Nacua, and a really good running back in Kyron Williams.
That's right.
I don't think the Rams defense has enough to stop the Eagles offense just because A.J. Brown's otherworldly.
That's right.
Devontae Smith is really good.
Yep.
Jalen Hurts squats 8 billion pounds. The tush push is unstoppable.
Yep.
So the Eagles should win that game in L.A.
Bengals, Cardinals, both teams 1-3. Line of Cincinnati by 3 on the road.
Well, the Cardinals win was more impressive, so I'm going to give it to Arizona in Glendale.
All right. Jets, Broncos, line is Denver by 2.
Russell Wilson was up and down against the Bears, but he looked better than he's looked for a while. Like, he's gotten off to a solid start. He's only thrown 2 interceptions the first 4 games. 9 touchdowns, 1,014 yards. If Russell Wilson and those receivers can get on the same page, the Broncos they have a chance to win this game because that Jets defensive front is one of the best in the NFL. So it's going to be a really interesting game. A 2-point spread is not much. I'm just going to give it to Denver because they're at home.
Chiefs, Vikings, Lions, Kansas City by 5.5 on the road.
Kansas City should win there.
Kansas City was good. Finally, we got Packers, Raiders next Monday night. Lions, Green Bay right now by 2.5 on the road.
I think it depends on if Jimmy G's back.
I think so too.
If Jimmy G's back, I'm going to actually give that one to the Raiders. But the Packers are doing a lot that I like. And since I don't know if Jimmy G's going to be back, I'm going to give it to the Packers.
There you go.
We'll see next Monday.
There you go. All right, folks, it's that time. Time to give out some awards. And we'll start with our first one, of course. Who is we're going to do the Drizzler Awards.
Man.
And we're giving out the Big Kahuna. We'll start with the Drizzler. I'll give you time to think about it.
Yeah. Got to make some sound.
The Drizzler Award. That's the one. Who's your big drizzler for the week?
Man. God. It feels so wrong to say this, but it also makes so much sense because it was the best game of his career.
Oh, you're going Justin Fields?
Gotta go Justin Fields, man.
Justin Fields.
Just because he very easily could have been the Big Kahuna.
He could have been.
Like, easy.
Yeah.
Could have been the Big Kahuna.
He could definitely have been.
But then he loses the fumble that immediately turns into points and then throws the interception to ice it right after that. Like, that is the antithesis of clutch. You know, because 335 yards, 4 touchdowns they were cruising, absolutely cruising. And then all he had to do was not fall apart, and that's exactly what he did. So this week, Justin Fields, as much as I like you, man, you are the Drizzler.
Mine's got to go to Cincinnati Bengals. This is a team with so much promise right now. And I think more along the lines of the way they're being managed, especially with Joe Burrow's multiple injuries that he's got and needing to get this dude healthy. And you keep trotting him back out there because you believe that all of a sudden he's just going to wake up fully healthy. Instead of it's a long season. Get your quarterback healthy. That way he can go out there and play like we know he can play.
Right.
Right now he's not doing anybody any favors. So my drizzler is more towards the Cincinnati organization right now for just getting in their own way, and they shouldn't. I gotta get that sound effect. I gotta remember to do that. You have to text me during the week to remind me to do this stuff. Add these effects to it. But it's Big Kahuna time.
Man, it's hard to pick one because I've got two that I really feel like deserve it. I'm just gonna give it to both of them.
There you go.
I don't
That's
know
what this award is.
I don't know who yours is, but I'm gonna give it to two people.
All right.
Honestly, there's probably three I could give it to. Really.
Go for it.
So
Do it.
yeah, I'm gonna give it to three people.
All right.
Because I feel like these guys just balled out. So first one is Christian McCaffrey.
Yes.
20 carries, 106 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's just on the ground. That's not even counting what he did receiving. Number 2 is Nico Collins of the Texans. 7 receptions, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. Was favorite weapon for C.J. Stroud this week. And then number 3, which is the last one I'm going to mention, but he has probably had the best game of the week, and that is A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles. 9 receptions, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. Absolutely massive game for Philly. So A.J. Brown, Nico Collins, and Christian McCaffrey, you are my guys this week. You are the Big Kahunas.
I mean, and I get behind that. I agree with all of those. But I'm going to give this one to a team that usually doesn't get one. That's got to be Ole Miss. And I'm going to go with – I was going to give it with just Jackson Dart, but that whole offense played so well. Quinshawn Judkins, dude, this dude's an animal. I love watching him play football.
He was a beast.
He is fun to watch.
Bentley ripped off the
Bentley's fun to watch.
Long run or touchdown run.
Trayvon Harris. Or did I say his name wrong?
Trey Harris.
Trey Harris. Again, what a great addition he has been to this Ole Miss offense. And while the defense didn't do good for either team, instead of folding, that offense just absolutely kept rolling. They didn't panic. They didn't get crazy. They didn't press. All they did was play to win. And what a game it was for them.
Yeah,
and it was a big game. You guys, the whole offense, the scheme, the coaching staff, the way y'all coached them up, I'll tell you what, Charlie Weiss Jr. has been a godsend for that offense and for those players on offense and getting that team to jail and getting all those guys to buy into the scheme and what they're trying to do. I think Ole Miss, there's only, 5 or 6 teams faster per play than Ole Miss is. And
which is not necessarily a great way to play offense.
No, because here's the thing. All those teams aren't up in the top tier of the league, right? They're not. But Ole Miss does it and is successful with what they're doing. And that makes all the difference in the world. So, Ole Miss, y'all earned it this week. You my big kahuna. That offense is killer. Getting it done. Folks, we appreciate you guys and gals tuning in. It's been a crazy weekend of football, but a fun weekend. It's just going to get nuttier because we got big games coming up this weekend in both college and pro sports. Get ready for it. It's all coming down to the wire. We'll be back here hopefully next Monday to talk about it.
Yes, sir.
Till then, for JC, it's Big Daddy, and we will see you guys next time.